Metro Man had it all until he vanished.
So I borrowed a prop from a nearby nursing school. Metro Man was finally dead.
Mark Grayson dreamt of heroism until it nearly destroyed him. Bob Parr saved the world, then got stuck in traffic on the way to his 9-to-5. So is being a hero really worth it, or does it become a burden over time? Animated masterpieces like The Incredibles, Megamind, and Invincible all explore the burden of being a hero in their own way, showing that behind the powers and praise lies a much heavier cost. The first hidden burden starts even before they accept the title of hero. This aspect relates to the fact that most heroes did not have a choice but to be heroes. It was sort of forced on them by fate. I know what you're thinking. An individual who can bench press a skyscraper sounds like the last person who should complain about burdens. However, even if not all heroes are human, they all do feel emotions, especially negative ones.
You. Swearing doesn't make you cool.
Some of these heroes were never asked if they wanted to be heroes in the first place.
Each and every citizen of Metro had something I didn't. A choice.
Or they didn't know the emotional baggage that being a hero came with.
This is all Invincible's fault!
It was simply their destiny. The concept of destiny was a central theme in DreamWorks' 2010 film Megamind.
I set out to find my destiny.
But at the core of destiny is something more daunting, the idea of fatalism. The belief that whatever it is you end up becoming can never be changed, no matter how hard you try. And we see this with Metro Man. Right from his infancy, it was clear that his destiny was to put a smile on people's faces wherever he went. First, his mom.
Our baby can fly.
Then, his classmates.
Into quiet time in the corner.
And then the whole of Metro City.
Who's your man?
Metro Man did serve a noble cause, and there was nothing wrong with what he was doing, except the fact that he was everything but who he truly wanted to be.
Ever since I can remember, I've always had to be what the city wanted me to be. But what about what I wanted to do?
They don't care, Metro Man. Society simply doesn't care about your feelings. All the world is concerned about is having its protector. Animation or not, this is a phenomenon with both psychological and philosophical explanations. Humans gravitate towards superheroes because they embody our deepest desires for justice, strength, purpose, and the hope that someone will rise when no one else can. Psychologically, they serve as symbolic protectors, filling the gap left by real-world uncertainties, chaos, and moral ambiguity. Philosophically, superheroes represent ideals of good triumphing over evil, of sacrifice for the greater good, and of meaning in suffering, which gives people something to aspire to or believe in. The only problem is we never stop to ask if these guys really wanted to help us or simply how they were feeling about their forced labor. Anyway, you know who else didn't have much of a choice? Amazon Prime's. When it comes to unfortunate fate and ill luck, Peter Parker is the poster child of this trope. While Invincible's Mark Grayson probably sits in second place, not far behind the webhead.
Are you serious, Grayson?
Invincible has made a lot of dumb decisions that have caused him great pain, but being a hero is not one of them. That's because it was a life he was born into, and he could never run away from it. Even when he tried to, the problems and responsibilities would find their way back to him.
Grab your stuff, Mark. We got a boogie.
What? No. I just got back from space.
Mark was made aware that he was destined for things the average human could only dream of.
And you're going to start to develop superpowers of your own. Just like me.
That's the thing about having a dad who's not from Earth and a superhero to boot. It's a perfect example of determinism. We see it all the time. Children often follow in their parents' footsteps, especially when a strong legacy is involved. In Mark Grayson's case, it's textbook genetic determinism. His father's superpowers weren't just passed down, they shaped his destiny. Mark could never live a normal life, no matter how hard he tried. But that's exactly what Bob Parr from Pixar's The Incredibles was begging for.
Look at me when I'm talking to you, Parr!
That man out there, he needs help.
Do not change the subject, Bob!
He didn't want a normal life. It was forced on him, partly due to society now hating superheroes.
It is time for their secret identity to become their only identity.
And the fact that his family wanted a normal life really had him in a tight spot.
Young lady. Act normal, Mom. I want to be normal.
Mr. Incredible's case is interesting because he wants to be a superhero against all odds. He's willing to relive his glory days despite heroism being outlawed.
That was way too close. We are not doing that again.
Even when doing good doesn't require him to use his powers, he's willing to disobey his superiors at work to do it.
Don't tell me about their coverage! Tell me how you're keeping Insuricare in the black! Tell me how that's possible!
But once again, determinism is taking its course, just not in the same way with Invincible. Bob has the genetic disposition to be a full-time hero, but unlike Metro Man's case, society has a bigger role to play. Society doesn't want heroes. Worse, his workplace can't even stand its staff doing right by customers. These external factors are so strong that they force Bob to conform to standards that go against his desires and ideals. This causes serious internal friction between what our heroes want and what's expected of them. But what happens when heroes start to put their own desire over duty? When superheroes find out that it's really not worth it to save the day all the time, they fold their capes and hang their cowls. Look at Titan, for example. The moment he didn't feel like being the hero, he also didn't retire. Instead, he switched sides.
No, you're a hero!
Being a hero is for losers. It's work, work, work.
Is Titan a jerk for having such a notion? Yes. Is he wrong, though? As much as we want yes for an answer, the dude has a point. This is a movie where our supposed hero, Metro Man, literally called it quits on his duty. It's a good thing that most heroes don't often get the luxury to choose to be one or not, because if it were up to them, the fate of the world is somebody else's business.
I'm sorry. I really am. I'm done.
This makes you question how long he has been tired of being a hero. Early in the movie, we did hear him say this.
The greatest honor you've given me is letting me serve you.
So he either knew how to put up a facade, or being a hero was so depressing it took away the sparkle in his eyes. But while Metro Man's initial feelings are questionable, there's no doubt Invincible always wanted to be a hero.
And I can do this. It's all I ever wanted for as long as I can remember.
Those were the words of a younger Mark. However, when he actually started being a hero full-time, he got less enthusiastic about things as time progressed. The same cannot be said about Bob Parr.
Living the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen. Yes.
And this eats away at Bob. What makes it worse is the fact that even when he doesn't need his powers, he's discouraged from doing the right thing. He missed being a hero so much he didn't mind his son getting in trouble for using them.
They caught you on tape and you still got away with it? Whoa! You must have been booking.
These heroes are forcibly suppressing their desires because they hate the life they live. They're the last people we expect to lose control because they're the backbone of society. But what happens when they finally snap? When the burden becomes too much? The cycles you refuse to break keep circling back. Nobody knew this better than Metro Man. He was beyond exhausted from being a hero. He needed a way out. He knew the world would hate him if he stopped being a hero without a proper excuse. So he disappeared, the only plausible way.
That's when I got the brilliant idea to fake my death.
As selfish as it seems, it only proves just how burdening being a hero is. It's such a big deal that the world would only excuse a hero for being absent if they're dead. Besides, the only reason Metro Man could do this was because he never had people he was attached to. No real friends, no significant other, not even a pet. Likewise, when Invincible wanted to call it a day on superhero work, he couldn't just go off the grid silently. He had to violently take his freedom.
I will never work for you again. We're done.
Mark's declaration signifies a breaking point, a moment where the pressures of heroism clash with personal values. You can't even blame the kid. He's been through a lot. His dad had traumatized and abused him in more ways than one. Physically,
but try it a little more like this.
Like what?
verbally.
Think, Mark! You'll outlast every fragile, insignificant being on this planet!
And he even hurt the people dear to Mark.
I do love your mother, but she's more like a pet to me.
Even with Cecil, things weren't any easier. Trust was an issue.
Now stop.
Not until you admit to everyone what you've done.
And they often had conflicting opinions.
You killed Angstrom Levy. Should I lock you up too? Throw away the key?
As if his luck couldn't get any worse, there was the occasional beatdown every now and then. The physical pain was on par with the emotional trauma. Mark started to doubt himself, ask questions he never thought he would have to ask.
How can I be a son, a brother, a boyfriend, and a superhero all at the same time?
These are not the words of a hero heading towards their breaking point. This is the confession of one who has passed it, who is in ruins. When people find themselves in such conditions, they start doing things that their sane selves would disapprove of. We see Bob become a terrible husband with the lies he started feeding his family.
Who was that, honey? The, office?
Another conference. Short notice, but you know.
He didn't stop there. He even endangered their lives.
Abort! Abort! There are children aboard! Say again, there are children aboard this! No!
Tied up in custody and witnessing the demise of his family, Bob was torn apart. That was the facial expression of a man who deeply regrets his actions. Evading the police and losing his job were gut punches he could take. But losing his family was where he knew it was too much. It wasn't worth being a hero over. His family was presumed dead, and a supervillain was holding him hostage on a remote island. Was he supposed to call a timeout or something?
Call off the missiles, I'll do anything!
Too late.
Maybe he should have appreciated his boring life working in insurance more. Maybe being normal was far from thrilling, but his safety and autonomy were guaranteed. Syndrome put it best. It was too late. If life wasn't going to give him a second chance, he would be hunted forever by the fact that he lied to his family and got them killed. That's why after he got reunited with them again, he wasn't the same hero.
I'm sorry. This is my fault. I've been a lousy father.
He had hit rock bottom. But does this mean that there's no hope for the hero? Or is there a way out of all this burden? This brings us to the final phase of the burden of being a hero, one that is certainly the most difficult to handle. Metro Man's decision to walk away from his role is one of the most subversive acts in animated storytelling. He doesn't fall victim to a villain. He doesn't die for the cause. He leaves, intentionally, thoughtfully. That precisely is what makes his exit so profound. To the world, he had everything: fame, power, purpose, but none of it belonged to him. His life had been consumed by the image of a savior, an identity so overpowering that his own humanity was quietly erased. The Metro Man the world cheered for was never real. He was a performance, a projection of what society wanted from him. From a psychological standpoint, this taps into a very real human struggle: the erosion of self under the weight of expectation. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But for people cast into roles, whether by family, society, or circumstance, authenticity becomes a quiet casualty. For Metro Man, continuing as a hero meant continuing the lie. Therefore, quitting was not cowardice, but self-actualization. Philosophically, his decision challenges the classical notion of the hero as a martyr. ancient hero myths, from Achilles to Superman, glorify the hero's self-destruction. But Metro Man disrupts that narrative. He asks, if I destroy myself in the process, who am I really helping? In a way, Metro Man is the only character in his story who achieves true freedom not just from villains, but from the identity imposed on him. He steps down for clarity. He sees that heroism, if it's not chosen freely, becomes a form of servitude. So maybe we've had it backward all along. Maybe being a hero isn't about endurance, it's about honesty. Maybe it's not about how much you can carry, but when you decide to put it down. So let's ask, what if the greatest act of heroism is choosing yourself? What if real strength lies not in being everything for everyone, but in being someone for yourself? And if you can't say no to the world's expectations, were you ever free to be a hero in the first place? Whatever your answer might be, not all heroes are fortunate to get the same clarity as Metro Man. Mark Grayson, for one, chooses to stay and suffers. But what sets him apart isn't strength, speed, or flight. It's his refusal to quit, even after the world shatters around him.
I have to get better.
Mark is a teenager thrown into a cosmic horror show disguised as a superhero origin story. He learns that his father, the man he worshipped, is a brutal colonizer, that the fights are real, the pain is permanent, and the cost of doing the right thing is everything: safety, love, even a normal life. And yet, he keeps going. Mark represents grit, the ability to sustain effort and passion over long periods despite repeated failure and trauma. It's the quiet, grinding resilience described by psychologist Angela Duckworth, not glamorous, not headline-worthy, but absolutely essential. Where others would crumble under the emotional weight, Mark absorbs it. He gets up, again and again. And here lies the philosophical question: is heroism measured by victory or by endurance? Sisyphus, the tragic figure from Greek mythology, was condemned to push a boulder uphill for eternity. And as philosopher Albert Camus argued, there's defiance, even dignity, in embracing the struggle. In choosing to push, knowing it will never end, Mark Grayson is that modern Sisyphus. He doesn't pretend things will magically get better. He simply decides they're worth fighting for anyway.
Eve.
He's bloodied, heartbroken, and disillusioned, but he keeps showing up. So maybe the real test of a hero is the choice to keep going, long after your strength runs out. Or, like Bob, the way to overcome the burden is to just do it as a family.
I think Dad has made some excellent progress today.
Superheroes are often portrayed as isolated figures, haunted by responsibility, consumed by purpose, and detached from ordinary life. But Bob and his wife Helen subvert this. They are partners, parents, and people trying to raise a family in a world that asks them to be superhuman at all times.
Mommy and I are always a team.
Because Helen evolves into the emotional core of the story, Bob can grow as a hero and a human. Their journey is about redefining what it means to be strong. It's not just the superpowers that save them, but the messiness of family. The yelling, the fear, the sacrifice. It's Dash learning to hold back.
Dash, I'm so proud of you.
Violet finding her confidence.
Away and back!
Jack discovering who he is. And both parents learning to accept that they can't do it alone.
No! The other one! The first one!
First button! Got it! It's getting closer!
Their story speaks to the shift from individual heroism to collective resilience. True strength isn't about control, but connection. Philosopher Hannah Arendt once argued that power arises not from the individual, but from people acting together. That's exactly what the Pars embody. Distributed strength rooted in shared purpose. They fight best when they're being honest, messy, imperfect people. In the end, there are different ways to find a hero's resolve or redefine what it means to be a hero. From Metro Man's choice to walk away, to Mark Grayson's decision to stay and suffer, to the Parr family's embrace of vulnerability and togetherness. Heroism is no longer about invincibility or isolation. It's about agency, resilience, and connection. The real hero is the one who knows when to step back, when to keep going, and when to let others in. But while it might be burdensome being a hero, being a villain just got a lot harder. Sometimes a villain has to hide his identity only to show up later in an unexpected reveal. Now, if you're wondering how you might write a perfect twist villain reveal, then you should certainly click this video here.